If you're young in that city and you don't have money, you can't do it. You can't. There's no transportation that's proper. It's not easily accessible. It's spread out. There's nothing to do there when you're young. I mean, literally. So, I mean, it's so disconnected from what the rest of the planet is doing. I think. I mean, it's so insulated in the type of community that.
So why sell to Toronto?
Because you survive well. You can live, access to housing, access to economic support, more open-minded, easier. Poverty is acceptable. I mean, as unacceptable as poverty should be. I mean, it doesn't stand out necessarily the same. It's a little bit easier in terms of, I mean, in terms of like social situations, stuff like that. You don't necessarily have to fight so hard to get that like baseline level of survival that you would in suburbia. We're still poor, but I mean, unemployed or doing a job I hate. I mean, Toronto it allowed me to get to a position where things are working out. I mean, educationally, intellectually, socially, stability-wise, housing-wise.
Why do you think that? Why? Is it because of the services are here? Is it because of the people? Is it what made that possible for you to actually be getting a job, be able to believe in what you want to do?
Good youth services when I first came in, building up, part of like having good social support network built up, like Youth Link originally, obviously like a few years there of having that good social support that gave me the break, even though being like wired on opiates and heroin and whatnot. I mean, getting into the peer position there and working part-time and having that fallback of like stable social support went a long way. It gives you the opportunity to do the things you would want to do or would do yourself that, you know, smaller places don't necessarily allow. Toronto allowed you to get to that lot of sad people, and I mean, you can't do it on yourself. It's the whole point of, I mean, it's a lot of willpower in doing stuff that you, like, I mean, yeah, that everyone needs to do, but when you start out so young on the streets, you don't know any different. If you don't have that opportunity to get to the point where most people would naturally be at, finishing high school, trying to get jobs, stuff like that, you don't know any different. So, I mean, if you don't have that reprieve and the type of access to services like that, you can't figure it out. I mean,
would you say housing is the end-all, all of having a new beginning, of starting things, and being able to be okay? Is that all, or did you think housing is good to go now?
No, I mean, housing first approach, I would say, obviously is the best. I mean, it's the preferred method of doing that. Everyone needs housing. Once you get housing, the amount of stability generally, even with drug use, things like that, tends to even out with a lot of people. But it shouldn't be the end goal, because you still need those integrated types of supports. You still need access to social services. You still need follow-up. I mean, you've been on the follow-up, like advocacy, having a worker facilitate type that. Even things like getting eyeglasses, dealing with authority, dealing with landlords, things that you don't have a concept of how to do because you've never needed to do them and no one's ever showed you how. You've just never, I mean, as a 14 or 15-year-old, you don't have a concept of how to fucking rent a place or how to do most of those types of things that are taken for granted. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. Obviously, you're ending up on the streets young, so that would be a big chunk of it. But I mean, even varies in terms of economic access. Being able to get welfare is one thing, and having services, but it doesn't mean there's affordable housing units in Toronto that you have good access to. It doesn't mean that you can live independently. It doesn't mean you can do a lot of the types of things that most people would take for granted. I mean, it's easier, but you're still at such a disadvantage living off $6,000 a year on welfare. You still have to deal with people that despise the fact that you're poor. You still, street culture is so entrenched in Toronto that it almost makes it easy to be too comfortable being poor, to pan your whole life, to shoot drugs your whole life, because it's almost a status quo for a lot of people. It hasn't changed. So I mean, it becomes pretty insulated after a while, where it's those types of survival mechanisms become your everyday life, and then all of a sudden you haven't really progressed. You're a 35-year-old that's still panhandling like you were when you were 16, without, minus any job experience for those 15 years that you would have had, 20 years, minus any type of educational attainment that you could have had. I mean, so you regress in certain ways as much as you survive. So that's a big barrier, and politically.
My name is Mark.
Nice.
I go by the stage name Knowledge.
Nice.
One thing that I've been doing lately is I've been working with different community activists in different places like Park and Sketch, and trying to kind of find a way to help out the community in a way that's more closely connected to the government and those type of fundings, and non-profit type of companies also. But lately, there's been an uprising, things that are happening quickly between now and January that I really think need to be addressed and need to be voiced. Right now there's actually a petition going around at the park to try to stop the end of the first and last being given to Ontario Works and ODSP. It's a very serious issue. If this happens in conjunction with some of the new laws that are happening as far as panhandling being taken out to clean up the downtown core and things like this, we're about to run into some very serious issues, and I think they need to be addressed. I'd like to help facilitate that with Fresh Look and see if we can make a push to maybe let the voices of the youth at margin be heard.
Peace.
My name is Susan. Me a platform for peer leadership and advocacy for some of the things that have gone wrong. I want to give a voice to some of those people that are too afraid to say what they think is wrong or how badly they have been treated, and I want to be able to make a difference so that in the future someone might have a better experience and like be able to be the greatest that they can be, not have all these barriers. Even though that's not possible, I want there to be as few barriers in a youth's life.
Cool. So, tell me a little bit about the F.R.E.S.H Collective and what you know about it, how you feel about it.
Directing other youth to other organizations that could help those other youth. So I think that's amazing. That's not something that I had when I was outside.
Awesome. Awesome.
You didn't have other youth showing you where to go. Like, you had to find out through other means.
Yes, and it's amazing because they actually experience that stuff to come and do a full circle like that, to come from the actual streets and establish their own company to help other unfortunate youths is amazing within itself.
Yep. How do you feel about F.R.E.S.H Collective?
F.R.E.S.H Collective is my chosen collective that I'm proud to say that has helped me in many different ways, including connection to training programs, as well as connections to high authority people to talk about street life and also update street living to help me also with my street involved action somehow. Yeah.
It's going to be a different style of people from just like, because then you don't have just people that went to college and university, and these people actually lived and experienced the things that we and other people are going through. So I think it can help us in a whole other way, which is why I never went to detox to get off my drugs, because I never trusted people that went to college and university. And it's no offense to them, but you know, it's easier sometimes just to talk to somebody that's been through and experienced what you're going through. It makes it a lot more comfortable for some people, I find.